What couldn't you believe you had to explain to another adult? Why a room below sea level on a cruise ship would not have a balcony? That no matter how much you might want to put a camo pattern on your walls, you, not the paint, have to determine what that pattern looks like, and you will also have to purchase multiple cans of paint tinted differently because camo doesn't come out of a can that way. Volunteered in a charity shop. Lady came to the counter with a top and asked if I could look in the back for one of the same color but a larger size. Tried to explain we don't do that because we're a charity shop. She insisted that other shops like H&M have done that for her. Wouldn't take no for an answer. Eventually, I just went in the back for a few minutes, made a cup of tea for a coworker, and came out saying we don't have any. She got mad at that too. My husband had to explain to a coworker that she couldn't take a train from the US to Europe. She insisted she had to because she didn't like flying. This is one of those times where eventually you just have to say, okay, just make sure you send us which trains you're on so we know and have a nice trip. North is not whichever way you're facing. I had to explain to my mom that my daughter was growing in my uterus and not my stomach, so the hot sauce on my burrito wasn't going to cause her skin burns. I also explained if she were growing in my stomach would certainly cause way worse burns than hot sauce. It was then that I understood why the school nurse had to explain to me in 5th grade why I kept bleeding through my pants every month at school and not my mom. That you have to have a printer to print things at home, tech support, and I wish I was lying. When I worked at a doctor's clinic, I had a lady on the phone wanting to book an appointment to have her flu shot. She specifically asked it to be a telephone appointment. I could not believe that I had to explain to her that we cannot inject her through the phone. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, and Italy is not a town in France. Same guy. My sister dated him for far too long. My sister-in-law used to believe France was a city in Italy. I'd love to get these two in a room together to fight about who is correct. Africa is a continent and not a country. That each country does not in fact have its own sun. We cannot hold period blood in. My God, I had an old boss that would ask me if I couldn't just hold it when I had to run to the bathroom. I'm a bartender. No, one of the reasons a woman would go to the bathroom is unholdable. Just last year, I became aware of the number of men that think you can't urinate with a tampon in. They needed an explanation of how many holes a woman has down there. Please, continue making medical choices for me. It was at work. I had to explain that if they didn't do their job, me or the next shift had to. I had a lengthy discussion with a coworker who suggested an efficiency, which was essentially passing her work to another employee. I explained over and over that the work still needs to be done by someone. She didn't back down until our boss agreed with me. I hope this isn't too racy for this sub. I had to explain to a grown, college-educated adult that no, anal sex does not cause AIDS, that no, if both parties are HIV negative, they cannot create AIDS by engaging in this activity. No, Daniel, that's not how viruses work. When you save a file on Windows, the save window actually lets you save the file into a particular folder. You don't have to go into your recent items to find it and then move it to where you want it to be saved. This person had been working an office job at a computer for more than 5 years at that point. That driving north meant the whole trip was uphill. I laughed at her until I realized she meant it. Ended up laughing at myself because there's no way I was going to explain it to her. I was picking up Italian liras one time, 1999 pre-Euros, from a bank in Tennessee. The teller brought me the envelope. When I opened it to count the money, she looked at me with total surprise and asked, "Do other countries have different money?" A bank teller. That her power was shut off because she didn't pay her electric bill for 3 straight months, and the letters on neon yellow paper from the power company were sent to warn her of this happening. She thought she was legally entitled to free electricity because it's a requirement for human survival. In Nordic countries, it's illegal for electricity companies to cut the power during winter for security reasons, freezing water pipes. That raw meat juices, especially that of chicken, should in no way come in contact with other foods. I learned this in 8th grade, so I was 13 years old. I had to explain to a 40-year-old that, no, you can't put grilled chicken back on an unwashed cutting board that still has raw chicken juices. That all depends on whether or not you like the people you are cooking for. Used to work at a daycare. One day, a little mouse entered the premises and caused an uproar until we caught and released it in the playground. After the whole ordeal, one of my colleagues, who was the dumbest person I've ever met, said, "Let's hope it didn't lay eggs anywhere." I was too stunned to speak and just stared at her, while my room friend said, in the most done with the shit way, "Mice don't lay eggs," and walked off. That dogs are artificially bred, and that there aren't wild golden retrievers, wild chihuahuas, and wild Maltese just running about that we're catching to make into pets. I had to explain to my two coworkers that it wasn't some magic fairy that was throwing away their coffee cups. They were joking around one day that their old coffee cups always disappeared by the next day, and I had to tell them it was me and that I had to start doing it because they kept getting left in the way and being knocked over. I was off for a few days and came back and there were cups everywhere. That the Aztecs and Incans are not interchangeable. They were in completely different parts of the Americas, and that neither of them built the Nazca lines. But especially not the Aztecs, who were not in fucking Peru. This person kept trying to tell me it was up to interpretation like, no, it's not. I had to explain to a restaurant worker that eggs are not dairy. Chickens do not have mammary glands. Someone who is allergic to dairy can eat eggs and chicken. Mayonnaise, containing eggs and oil, is therefore not dairy. She was looking at me like I was the stupid one the whole time. The difference between Chinese and Japanese people. When I was a kid, other kids told me Japanese eyes slanted up and Chinese slanted down. Then our friend from Korea moved here and just blew that whole paradigm right out of the water. That women do not all have their period at the beginning of the month all around the world at the same time. Incremental tax brackets. A dude at my work thought he was going to make less money if he got a raise. I had to explain to someone you can't buy like 2 pounds of lunch meat and eat it for a month. The concept of things spoiling was new to him. To be fair, we were both college students, and he was living alone for the first time. I used to work at a coffee shop and had to explain what filling something halfway meant to a woman I was training. She didn't understand the concept of half. That an item damaged in a car crash did not qualify as a manufacturer defect covered under warranty. The store refund policy was 90 days, and she had a receipt over a year old. A girl was staying with my family and had brought her dog. The dog got hurt at one point, freak accident, that required surgery on a back leg and the cone of shame to be worn. At one point, she started cutting off a bit of the cone. Me, careful, cut too much and he'll be able to reach his stitches. Her, that's all right, he'll be able to keep them clean. I had to explain to her very slowly that the purpose of the cone was to keep him from licking the stitches and pulling them out. She honestly thought the cone was just an aesthetic thing. When I was 19, I explained to a middle-aged woman that Jesus was not blonde-haired, blue-eyed, spoke English, and from America. How to make ramen. The directions are on the packet. I pointed that out. Their response was, I thought it was too simple to have directions on it.